Chiefs Kingdom, what is up? Gary McKenzie here again. And in today's video, we're going to predict the Chiefs' regular season record in 2022. I'm super excited to show it to you. So let's go. So today's shout out is going to the late, great Lynn Dawson. And many of you probably watching this video weren't around to watch him play. I wasn't around to watch him play. So if you're watching this video and you got to see Lynn Dawson play, make a comment. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you saw. I love reading comments like those. Um, when Lynn Dawson was a starter for the Chiefs, he had a stretch of seasons from 1962 to 1968 where he was just incredible. He led the NFL in passer rating for 6 of those seasons. He led completion percentage for 6 of those seasons, and he led the NFL in touchdowns for 4 of those seasons. He went through a 7-year stretch where he was just dominating the NFL. And he also set records for the Chiefs franchise in passing yards with over 28,000 passing yards, and then passing touchdowns with 237. One of my favorite things about Lynn Dawson was his path to get to the Chiefs. He was originally drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they had him sitting on the bench, and he wasn't getting much playing time, and he was contemplating retiring. And Hank Stram, who knew him from his college days, ended up being the head coach for the Chiefs, and he brought Lynn Dawson on board. And Dawson started his first season for the Chiefs when he was 27 years old. And that kind of just reminds me that no matter where you are in life, it's never too late to be who you were supposed to be or who you were meant to be. And Lynn Dawson's story always gave me a lot of hope. I hope it does you too. But a consummate professional, all around well liked guy. He's going to be missed. He went out on top of the Chiefs franchise as far as passing touchdowns and passing yards go. And I believe he earned that and he deserved that. So just he deserved to go out on top. So it's sad to see him go, but also I'm grateful to have him as a Chief, and he was an all-time great Chief. So today's video, like I said, we're going to make a prediction for the Chiefs regular season in 2022. And we're going to go through a few things. I've made this prediction. I've used this method several times with success. And we're basically going to look at how the Chiefs have done versus playoff teams and also versus non-playoff teams. So during the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era, the Chiefs are 35-4 versus teams that didn't make the playoffs that year. That's good for almost a 900 winning percentage, which is incredible. They're 14-9 versus teams that did make the playoffs, which is just a shade above a 600 win percentage. And we're going to use those to predict the Chiefs' records for 2022. So basically, the method is as such. We're going to take the Chiefs' 2022 opponents and group them into 3 categories. One category is going to be teams that will for sure make the playoffs. Another category is going to be teams that might make the playoffs, they have a shot. And another category is teams that are not going to make the playoffs. Obviously, this is just my best guess, but I've had a little success with this in the past, and I'll get that here in a little bit. We'll use the prior win percentage that I just talked about based on the Chiefs versus non-playoff teams versus playoff teams to calculate the predicted record. So I keep mentioning that I've had success with this in the past, and back when Alex Smith was the Chiefs quarterback, I was making predictions for Arrowhead Pride, and I ended up using this method, and it worked out quite well. So in 2014, I predicted they would go 9-7. They went 9-7. In 2015, I predicted they'd go 11-5. The Chiefs went 11-5. 2016, I predicted 12-4. The Chiefs went 12-4. In 2017, I predicted they'd go 11-5, and they went 10-6. And then Mahomes' first year in 2018, I predicted they would go 10-6, but they went 12-4. And that was likely because of Mahomes' jump versus playoff teams. So Mahomes did better against playoff teams than Alex Smith did. So that's why that prediction was wrong. I haven't made a prediction since 2018 because I've been on hiatus. I've been away from the game a little bit. So the Chiefs' 2022 opponents, I mentioned I was going to group them into those three categories. The teams that I think are locks to make the playoffs in the Chiefs' schedule in 2022 are only the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams. I think those are the only two teams where I'm fairly certain that they're going to make the playoffs. Then we have a whole slew of teams that I think have a chance to make the playoffs. That includes the Cardinals, the Chargers, the Colts, the Buccaneers, the Raiders, the Titans, the Bengals, and the Broncos. And then we have teams that I don't think will make the playoffs. That includes the 49ers, Jacksonville, the Texans, and Seattle. So some of you might look at that San Francisco team not making the playoffs and disagree with that. That's fine. I was kind of on the fence about them too, but I think with Trey Lance having his first year as a starter, they're going to need a little bit of luck to get into the playoffs. So I had them more likely not to make the playoffs than making the playoffs. In total, two of the Chiefs' opponents are for sure locks to make the playoffs, in my opinion. 11 opponents might make the playoffs, also in my opinion. And then four opponents will not make the playoffs. So that's also my opinion. But if we split the maybes in half, and this is what I did in the prior years, um, you have 9.5 teams not making the playoffs and 7.5 of their opponents making the playoffs. I split it in half because it makes it so that I can use my prior records of the Chiefs' prior records versus playoff teams and versus non-playoff teams. That way, I can do the math to calculate the projected record. So splitting them in half allows me to do that, and it's also a clean way to break those two apart. Now, there is one caveat there where back in 2014 through 2018, only 6 teams were making the playoffs, whereas now 7 teams are. So there may be a little bit of massaging that I have to do with the numbers as we go forward, where I change the percentage of teams that I split by. So instead of maybe saying half make the playoffs, half don't, maybe I'll have 60% of those make the playoffs and 40% of them don't. But we'll see how things go for this year with this prediction. So if we do the math, we have the 9.5 non-playoff teams multiplied against the almost 900 percentage win percentage that the Chiefs have versus non-playoff teams, and then add that to the 7.5 teams who have the .609 win percentage, and you get a total of 13. So that means my prediction is that the Chiefs will go 13-4 in 2022. So they're going to have another strong season, one of the better seasons that Mahomes has had as starter. And I stand by this, and we'll see what happens as the year goes on. But I'm hopeful in that 13-4 number. I broke it down by each game, just kind of my thoughts on how they'll go. And I have Chiefs starting this season with their first 5 weeks going 5-0. That means that they're going to win at Arizona. They're going to win versus the Chargers. They're going to go to Indianapolis and win. They're going to go to Tampa Bay and win. They're going to play the Raiders at home, and they're also going to win. Their first loss of the season, I'm projecting, will come against the Buffalo Bills in Week 6. They'll move to 5-1, and then their next loss in the season, I have them losing when they face Tennessee at home. They'll go 6-2, and the Titans team, I have some questions about. Can Tannehill put together another good year? He didn't have a very good year last year, and the Titans still got the number one seed. So part of me thinks that the Titans' success lately is a little bit shaky, and they're on the edge of disaster. So I'm thinking that next year the Titans are going to have a setback. They won't get the one seed again. They'll be close to making the playoffs. They might not. But I still think that they're going to beat the Chiefs because that is a team, for whatever reason, historically has always been a thorn in the Chiefs' side, especially during the Andy Reid era. They've had some bad losses against the Titans, and I'm projecting that they're going to do that next year. They'll win their next game, Week 10 versus Jacksonville, and their third loss of the year will come at the LA Chargers in Week 11. I think they're going to split the games with the Chargers and the Broncos in 2022, and they're going to beat the Raiders both times. The next loss the Chiefs will see will be in Week 17 when when the Broncos come to Kansas City, and at that point in time, their record will be 12-4, and then their last week of the season they will play the Raiders, and they'll win that game, and they'll be 13-4. I don't have any predictions on where they'll be playoff seeding wise, but I do think that the Chiefs have a really good shot to get the number one seed locked up in 2022. I don't buy all the hyperbole about the Chiefs taking a step back just because Tyreek Hill is gone. I think the narrative that's going to be taking place as the season goes on is that where did the Chiefs get all these weapons? Mahomes has all these weapons to throw to. And a lot of that praise should be directed to Mahomes because he's the man that makes it work for the most part. And like I said, I'm predicting the Chiefs will go 13-4. They'll have a good season. And with that, that's really the end of the video. I've got a couple asks for you guys. One of them is Ryan has requested that I make a name for this channel or make a name for these videos that I do. One of the names that I think was floated was Inside the Numbers. I'm somewhat liking that, but I'm throwing this idea out to you guys and gals to tell me what you think it should be named. I'll take whatever suggestions you have and appreciate them. And then the next ask that I have is that, of course, if you like what you see here, make sure you like and subscribe and tell all your friends and family and get them all to become RGR subscribers and be some of the best informed Chiefs fans in the Chiefs Kingdom. So with that, that's all I have. Appreciate your time. Once again, go Chiefs. This is RGR Football signing out.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.